podcast. Just type in the name of the program. Understanding him and our need for him for the remission of sins is a core fundamental tenet of the Christian faith, and without it, the whole worldview falls apart, and the whole thing falls apart. Our whole path into salvation falls apart. And so understanding who Jesus is and our need for him is fundamental to our understanding of eternity and accessing God the Father. That's John chapter 14, verses 5 and 6. Well, looking out in our culture, you know, the Super Bowl halftime show, if we want to talk about that, I think some of us do. That was yesterday evening, the halftime, which the game itself was rather kind of uneventful, kind of slow going. I think Seattle had the most field goals in any Super Bowl, which was fascinating. I think they had 5 field goals. That was when I quit watching. I think they had more than that. But when I stopped watching, they had 5 field goals, no touchdowns at that point. And that was pretty interesting, but it was pretty slow going, so I'm not here to comment on the game. But look, the halftime show has been degenerate for a long time. I mean, as long as I can remember, right? I'm sure maybe, you know, in my younger years, when I was growing Child, or maybe even before that, the halftime show had some semblance of decency attached to it. But if we're being honest, the halftime show's been gone for a while, right? I mean, we've had to cover up the eyes of our youth for a decade plus minimum, maybe going back longer than that. It's just been degenerate, right? And I'm going to push back against this narrative. Well, the halftime show is just indicative of where our culture is. No, I disagree with that. Maybe partly. I mean, when you look at Barna's studies on where our culture is, it's not good, right? The number of people who have a biblical worldview is very low, and the number of churches and pastors that strictly adhere to the teaching of Scripture, there's not good studies on that. And so I'm not here to present that America is this, sanctified nation with, 90+% born-again believers. That obviously is not the case. Look around, right? But at the same time, I don't think if you gave our nation and our people, both born again and non, the opportunity to have a say at what we're going to watch during the halftime of the Super Bowl, one of the greatest sporting events in American history, I would doubt that 51% are going to pick Bad Bunny. Okay? I just don't think that our appetite is bent that direction. I'm talking about the majority of the country, all right? You can find 10% of our country that'll sign up for anything, all right? I'm talking about the majority of the viewership of the Super Bowl. I can almost guarantee you, if you were to put options before them or allow them to write in their own options, we're not going to be picking Bad Bunny, okay? We're not going to pick Jay-Z, and we're going to pick Beyonce. And so this is where the frustration arises, all right? And then I'll get to what Turning Point did, and it's a pretty revolutionary thing that they did that I think pay dividends down the road. So we'll talk about that. But I don't think this is where our culture is. Our culture is not in a good place, but I don't think it's where this is. And when you look at the lyrics of this guy, this is very degenerative stuff. I mean, you talk about dehumanizing women. That's what this guy does. I actually can't even touch the lyrics on live radio because we're regulated by the FCC. You talk about having a license violation, read his lyrics on the radio? No go. So the lyrics are horrendous, absolutely horrendous. But of course he's singing in Spanish, so who knows what he's saying, right? Apparently he did tone it down a little bit for the halftime show because he was on national broadcast television, which is regulated by the FCC. So he was forced to tone it down, if you will. But this is the kind of stuff that is being pushed on Americans that we didn't sign up for. And this is where the honest frustration is that we didn't sign up for this. We bring in a Puerto Rican who's singing all of his songs in a foreign language, although Spanish-speaking Americans is on the rise, but nonetheless, it's still a foreign language, non-majority language in Spanish. And that's our halftime show. And then you look at the lyrics, it's horrendous stuff. Never, ever, ever should we be listening to this garbage, much less let our kids listen to it. And I actually hesitate to even differentiate what our kids should listen to versus we should listen to, because why would we listen to stuff that we don't let our kids listen to? So as a believer, we really need to have this universal standard of decency and morality and what goes in our ears and in our mind and in our eyes that should be applicable across the board. I mean, we shouldn't watch some stuff that we wouldn't let our kids watch. We should all just not watch bad stuff. But the halftime show was terrible. Of course, I didn't watch it, but I looked on X this morning, kind of got up to speed on how bad it was, so to speak. But that's where we're on the halftime show. What Turning Point did, look, we've got all of our critiques of what Turning Point did. Personally, I think it was a missed opportunity. I think Charlie's Charlie Kirk, this is my opinion, okay? Charlie Kirk was taking Turning Point in a very Christian-centric direction. There's no doubt about it, all right? What's fascinating about Charlie Kirk's testimony, which I only have good things to say about it. What's fascinating about Charlie Kirk's testimony and the trajectory in which he was taking the organization, which is effectively becoming a ministry, is he was taking it, instead of most founders or most organizations like starting out solid and then drifting away from God or away from core fundamental truths that they were founding on, Charlie was actually taking the organization from more of like a political, cultural organization to a very much Christian-centric, biblical worldview organization. I mean, he was pulling and pushing Turning Point in a very good direction. It was solid, all right? And you could hardly listen to Charlie Kirk without him mentioning Jesus, the Bible, apologetics, scripture. I mean, Charlie Kirk was moving in the right direction, and he was taking his organization very much in a good direction. So I think in some ways, the Turning Point's halftime show did miss a little bit of an opportunity to continue that trajectory. Let me just leave it there, all right? But nonetheless, the highlight of the night is that Turning Point got 5 million viewers on YouTube alone. The latest report from Turning Point as of this morning, that they had somewhere between 25 and 35 million viewers across all platforms, all right? To me, that's the headline, all right? And we don't need to miss this for the sake of nitpicking some of this other stuff, all right? What Turning Point did was revolutionary, and I believe it broke the stranglehold that the degenerate NFL halftime has had on our culture for the last 25 years. All right. So to me, what Turning Point did is a welcome sign that the NFL halftime show is no longer, quote, the thing, and that there's options elsewhere. You don't think that this got the attention of Roger Goodell? Maybe it didn't. Maybe he's asleep at the wheel. I don't know. But Turning Point proved that there is a market for something else. There is a market for something maybe a little bit more wholesome. There's a market for something where maybe you don't have to close the eyes or the ears of your child for the entire halftime show. And so I think this is phenomenal. I think what Turning Point did is going to move things in the right direction. It's going to create an entire other market for alternative halftime shows. And there's no telling how many ad dollars and sponsors are going to go, I can spend, $1 million over here with the woke NFL, or I can go spend $100,000 with Turning Point. I'll go hang out with Turning Point.
The first to plead his case seems right until another comes and examines him. My name is Abraham Hamilton III, and this is the Hamilton Minute. Tom Homan was appointed as Executive Associate Director of Enforcement and Removal Operations, the branch of ICE responsible for identifying, arresting, and deporting illegal immigrants, in 2013 by President Barack Obama. Homan received the Presidential Rank Award for Distinguished Service, the highest civil service honor in the United States, in 2015 from Barack Obama. Homan received the award for his effectiveness in immigration enforcement. In fact, it was Homan's stellar deportation performance during the Obama administration that put him on President Trump's radar to lead ICE's deportation efforts for the Trump administration. Facts the lying media conveniently omit.
Listen each weekday from 5 to 6 p.m. Central for the Hamilton Corner with Abraham Hamilton III, public policy analyst for the American Family Association. The following is a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I had a lot of credit card debt and it stressed me out. But what I thought was a solution turned out to be a problem. I kept hearing ads about debt settlement that seemed too good to be true. And actually, it was. When I called, they told me to stop paying my bills. That didn't sound right to me at all, so I hung up. Later, I found out that debt settlement is bad, real bad. Then I learned that there is a right way to pay off your credit cards. It's called a debt management program from the great team at Trinity. Trinity had a plan. In the end, I paid off my
800-778-8213.
My name is Heather. Please forget debt settlement and remember Trinity Debt Management.
1-800-788-1813. AFA Stream. It sounds like it could be a great place to catch fish, paddle a canoe. And as good as that is, AFA Stream is even better. It's a resource for life-changing instruction and information with videos like the biblical case for cultural engagement and God in the Constitution. It's also a source of wholesome entertainment and relaxation with family-friendly features like Ryan DeFree's Secret Agent and The Pilgrim's Progress, plus access to some of your favorite AFA shows so you can catch up on what you missed or enjoy a favorite episode for a second or 10th time. You can watch a lot of content for free, or you can become a great commission partner. Then you'll not only open the door to everything AFA Stream has to offer, you'll get benefits like a subscription to The Stand and some really nice exclusives. Why not get started today? It's easy. Visit stream.afa.net when it's convenient. Stream.afa.net.
At the Core podcasts are available at AFR.net. Now, back to At the Core on American Family Radio.
Welcome back to the program here on American Family Radio. Thousands over the years, over the last 30 plus years, we've had thousands of our listeners join us on these tours. And so for 2026, we're going to be in Williamsburg, Jamestown, Yorktown. That's one trip. We're going to be in Washington, D.C. That's another trip. Those are back-to-back, though. And then lastly, we're going to be in Boston in late September of this year, touring the Freedom Trail, Plymouth Rock, Lexington Concord, just to name a few. It's going to be a great time of fellowship and learning with Stephen McDowell and Tim Barton. That's going to be for Boston. Stephen McDowell helps us lead the tours from a historical perspective in Washington, Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown. You can go over to tours.afa.net to check out that website, tours plural, tours.afa.net to check out all of those dates, to register, itinerary, everything you need to know is over there at tours.afa.net. Well, I've interviewed various guests, including our very own Dr. Jameson Taylor and others, on the topic of protecting youth and children from the harms that are on the internet. We talked everything from age verification to civil liability for some of these tech companies and these website hosting platforms. We've talked extensively about what needs to happen from a legal and policy vantage point in order to properly protect minors while on the internet. All right, and a lot of this has already become law and is beginning to take full effect in various states around the country. Well, one of the bad actors, if you will, in this realm is a platform and a software called Roblox, which apparently does a lot. Never used Roblox, but I know youth who have. I've talked to parents who have, seen their kids use it, etc. And then there's the Snapchat, and this is just two of many platforms that have some serious harms involved. I'm going to play, this is about a 3-minute Fox report on how a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old were lured in by a child predator in Florida. Actually going to take them up to the Northeast. Thankfully, family and law enforcement intervened before it was done. But listen to this horror story that took place between Roblox and Snapchat. Let's listen.
Listen to this. A pair of 12 and 15-year-old Florida sisters back home safe after they left home to meet a 19-year-old man. The Martin County Sheriff's Office says the three had communicated for months, beginning on the online gaming platform Roblox before moving over to Snapchat. The man even ordered girls food deliveries before he drove 23 hours from Nebraska to meet them. However, the girls were intercepted in Georgia by a family member and were unharmed. That suspect now facing 2 counts of kidnapping. John Budenseek is the Martin County, Florida Sheriff who worked this case, joins me now. Sheriff, what leads you to believe that, in your words, authorities, quote, prevented something disastrous from happening to these 2 girls?
Well, Todd, there's nothing good that's going to come out of a 19-year-old driving all the way from Omaha, Nebraska, to Florida, 1,500 miles, picking up 2 little girls and taking them back to wherever he was going to take them back to. Nothing good was going to come out of that.
I think we could all agree that that is a logical conclusion. I have to read these statements from the 2 social media companies. Roblox providing this statement, quote, they are long, so bear with me. We are investigating this deeply troubling incident and will fully support law enforcement. Roblox has robust safety policies to protect users that go beyond many other platforms and advanced safeguards that monitor for harmful content and communications. We have filters designed to block the sharing of personal information, don't allow user-to-user image or video sharing, and recently rolled out age checks globally to limit kids and teens to chatting with others their age by default. While no system is perfect, our commitment to safety never ends, and we continue to strengthen protections to keep users safe. Snapchat issuing a similar statement. While no single safety feature or policy can eliminate every potential threat online or in the world around us, we continuously adapt our strategies as criminals evolve their tactics. We've built safeguards, launched safety tutorials, partnered with experts, and continue to invest in features and tools that support the safety, privacy, and well-being of all Snapchatters. But Sheriff, this 19-year-old did not use some CIA-level, Mission Impossible-level computer skills to communicate with these girls. He was simply able to go on these platforms and communicate with them. So can parents, despite these statements, actually trust these platforms to protect their kids?
They absolutely cannot. You know, in this scenario, it was relatively benign information at first. It was just 2 people chatting, and then it went from the Roblox platform over to Snapchat, and then we do believe now that there were some inappropriate photos that were sent. We know there was a lot of communication. In fact, that communication with vigilant family members was shut down in the middle of the summer, and unbeknownst to the family, that communication started again, and then it ended this last Saturday night with those girls getting picked up. And had we not found them, we'd be doing a nationwide search right now for 2 little girls that would be in Omaha. We would likely never find them.
Wow, so that's the lengthy version of what happened here, and I feel as though we needed that full context.